The old way of choosing goals is dead. If you want to set goals that have a massive impact and really move the needle, you need to know the best way of selecting goals. I've spent the last 15 years working with professionals on productivity systems, and here's what I see. People waste precious months of effort executing the wrong goals. So these are the 5 critical steps to select the best goals that matter most to you and achieve maximum results. Okay, step 1. I call it the law of the vital few. A small number of high-impact goals create the vast majority of the results that matter most to you. Now, many people recognize this as the 80-20 principle, where 20% of your actions drive 80% of your progress. This principle is widely validated across economics, business, and performance science, and it's one of the most important foundations in productivity. Now, when professionals I work with present to me 2 different goals, the difference becomes quite obvious. Let's, for instance, take a real-life example I worked on. So, goal A was increase call volume to potential leads by 20%. And goal B was build a systematic lead generation process. Which goal would you choose? When we analyze for impact, goal A might increase lead volume by 5 or 10%, quite useful, but incremental. Goal B, in contrast, has the potential to create predictable revenue for years to come. So goal A is incremental. Goal B is transformational. So we chose goal B. The sales agent I was working with reached the top 10% in her company in 12 months. Most people choose a mix of both, spreading effort between incremental and transformational goals. And the problem is that they treat them equally in terms of weight. However, 80% of your focus and effort should be on goal B types, the vital few that vastly outperform the rest. Okay, let's dive into step number 2, which separates the real pros from the amateurs. And that is integrating goal selection into a complete productivity system. In our case, a 12-week year. Now, the law of the vital few, or the 80-20, is powerful on its own. If you apply it to your goal selection, you're already ahead, most likely 90% of the people. But if you really want to reach a pro-level productivity, the kind that produces consistent compounding results, you need to integrate this goal selection process into a complete productivity system. Now, the best system for this, from my experience, is the 12-week year. And let me explain why integration matters. In my 15 years working with professionals on execution systems, the pattern is very clear. People using integrated productivity systems are able to achieve 5 to 10x the results compared to those working just with isolated techniques. Now, that's not because they work harder. It's because goal selection, execution, and feedback reinforce each other. They compound. So let's see how it works with the 12-week year. You start with a 3-year vision, what we call your North Star, that anchors your future and drives long-term motivation. From that vision, you identify 12 months milestone, 12 months goals, and then break those down into focused 12-week execution cycles with 12-week goals. Now, each cycle includes weekly planning, scorekeeping, and accountability mechanisms. At the end of the 12-week cycle, you get rapid feedback and you course correct and make the adjustments. Now, goal selection sits right between vision and execution. It's the strategic bridge where you choose a vital few objectives that will have the most impact driving your vision. When goal selection is isolated, you might pick the right goals but fail to execute, or execute well but never learn whether the goals were right or not. Integration solves both. You select better goals because they're anchored to your vision. You execute them consistently because a system enforces discipline. And you learn faster because feedback loops are built in and you work in laser-focused 12-week cycles. That's the compounding advantage. Better selection leads to better execution, which leads to better learning, which leads to even more results. Okay, let's step into step 3, which is identifying your critical streams. You have your vision on the 12-week year. Now what? Most people make the same mistake. They try to improve everything at once. Career, health, relationships, skills, finances, whatnot. All of it feels important, obviously, so they spread their effort across 5 or 6 different domains. Now that violates the law of the vital few before you even start. Here's what you do instead. you identify 2 or 3 streams, the critical areas or domain that must change for your vision to become real. Not the areas that would be nice to improve, the ones that are structurally necessary. So now, to give you a real-life example, let me show you how this works with my own vision. So my 3-year vision is to become the leading 12-week-year productivity strategist in the world. When I map that vision into streams, I ask, what domains must function for this to happen? So I personally identified 2 streams. One is market presence and lead generation. So people need to know I exist and become clients. And the second is content excellence. My 12-week materials need to be the best in the world in terms of availability. Now, you might say, no, look, these are really broad. They are, but they're solving the same structural constraint, which is market presence. The specific activities emerge later when we identify obstacle within the stream. Now, you might ask, why only 2 streams and not 3 or 4? Because we all know life is messy. Unexpected demands will show up. Priorities will shift. 2 streams give me a buffer. They allow me to stay ruthlessly focused on what matters most while leaving enough room for reality, the unexpected stuff that will come forth. This is a vital few applied to domains. If a stream isn't strictly necessary for your vision, you cut it out. It's not that it's unimportant. If it's not critical right now, you're not going to use it. Okay, step 4 is to identify the obstacles within each stream. But let's quickly recap where we are. Now remember, you establish your vision within the 12-week year, which is your 3-year North Star. And remember, you are applying the law of the vital few to make sure that you are focusing on the highest impact goals. Now, from that vision, you also identified 2 or 3 critical streams, those domains that must change for your vision to become real. Now we're at the step where you need to identify the actual obstacles that are preventing you from achieving your vision within those streams. When you're identifying obstacles, make sure you're describing them as specific states, not some vague problems. For example, I need more clients is not an obstacle. It's just a problem you're trying to solve. The actual obstacle is what's preventing you from getting those clients. For instance, the obstacle in this case might be not having a lead generation process. So that's actually something that's sitting on your stream and preventing you from doing that. So let me show you how this works with my own example. So if you remember from the last section, my vision is to become the leading 12-week years productivity strategist in the world. Now, from that vision, I identified 2 streams, 2 critical streams. One is market presence, and the second was content excellence. Just for the sake of this example, let's focus on the first stream only, which is market presence. When I analyze this stream, I'm able to identify 2 main obstacles. The first one is insufficient exposure on key digital channels, so not enough clients coming in. And the second is insufficient conversion systems and strategies, not enough clients converting. Now, notice that they are specific states, not some vague problems or actions. These are clear obstacles sitting, blocking one of my critical streams. Okay, they're preventing me from reaching my vision. And once you will have your obstacles clearly identified, choosing the right goals will emerge naturally. Okay, we finally reached the last step number 5, which to engineer goals that remove the obstacles. Now, goals aren't aspirations. They're actually an engineered responses to the obstacles. So what does it mean? So once you identify the obstacle, that specific state that's blocking your progress on the stream, your goal is a deliberate state change designed to completely remove this obstacle. Let's see how it works with the obstacles I identified for myself. So if you remember, obstacle 1 was insufficient exposure on key digital channels. Now, the goal I designed was to build a systematic content distribution process, basically to consistently publish content on YouTube and LinkedIn. Now, notice how this goal directly addresses the obstacle, because systematic visibility solves the exposure problem or the exposure state or lack of thereof that I was in. Take, for example, obstacle 2, which was insufficient conversion systems and strategies. So the goal I designed was to create and implement a lead magnet and an email nurture sequence that converts engaged audience into consultation bookings. Now, again, notice this goal completely removes the conversion constraint. Now, they're the system that turns engagement into clients. So as you can see, the goals aren't just random improvements. They're precise responses to diagnosed constraints. They emerge from the obstacles, not from what feels important or what someone else is doing. This way, across your entire critical streams, you should have a total of 5 to 6 goals max. More than that, and you are probably spreading yourself too thin. If you want to go deep on the 12-week year, understand it more, I think you should try this video.